Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatare Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, let me share the Bhagavad Gita. Here you go, Bhagavad Gita. I guess there's only two of you out there, so I'll put you on the spot a bit. I don't think Mother Rajkishore, was you with us yesterday?
No, I wasn't in yesterday.
Right, perhaps I won't put too many demands on Mother Ludya by asking exactly what we covered yesterday. But anything come to mind, Ludya Mother? What we covered yesterday?
Hare Krishna. Yesterday was very bad internet. I couldn't hear a lot.
Oh, really? Sorry about that. Can you hear better now? Can you hear now? Is it the audio is good now?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. Well, sometimes it's like that. What can be done? So just for my own edification as well, I was just looking. I like to do that before I read or study. Then I might go back a couple of verses or a couple of paragraphs, just so I can get the context. It's always good. So we began on text 11. So now where Krishna is instructing or explaining to Arjuna the actual physical practice of yoga, dhyana, which then leads to meditation. Yeah, so we started off with text 11 and 12. And of course, Prabhupada gives the Krishna conscious equivalent or the Krishna conscious perspective on these verses. Although these verses are Krishna conscious, they're spoken by Krishna as a means to obtain him. And interesting in reading the commentaries of the Acharyas, it highlights Prabhupada's quite unique phrase, Krishna consciousness, because the Sampradaya Acharyas and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhushana, they speak of the communion of the conscious or the communion of the soul with the supreme soul in consciousness. The merging, not the impersonal merging, but the consciousness becoming, or the consciousness of the jiva becoming or linking with and becoming absorbed in the consciousness of the supreme. Excuse me. So it sounds quite technical, but Prabhupada just uses the word Krishna conscious. How to be Krishna conscious. And so, and I welcome devotees to join us. Excuse my coughing a bit. So this is a means to obtain how the consciousness can connect with Krishna. In other words, become Krishna conscious. But this is the mechanical, if you can say. One aspect of it is mechanical. So then it's recommended for yogi to first of all go to a sacred place, Sochao Deshe, in a sacred place. And anyone can say what Prabhupada quotes, what those sacred places are? You all know
places of pilgrimage.
Yes, he mentions 1, 2, 3, 5 specific places. It's in the purple. Okay, I'll tell you. Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, and Hardwar. Yeah. And to practice in solitude is recommended with Ganges and Yamuna, where it flows. Then Prabhupada, as we might expect, as we remember, he doesn't think so good, or he hasn't got much good to say about the Western, about the so-called yoga societies in in big cities. He says they're just good for one thing, making money. That's about it. One's not necessarily going to become Krishna conscious. Yeah. Because yoga does mean self-control, not just asanas. Yeah. So then he quotes, then he says, because this age of Kali, Payene apaso sabya kalo asmin yugejana manda sumanda matayo manda upagi upatutaha. These sages at Naram Sharanya, they also understood the anomalies and the difficulties that the jivas will face in the age of Kali. So they was asking for a process which is practical and very direct. So Prabhupada quotes, what verse he quotes? Therefore, in this Kali Yuga, the best means of self-realization is come on, we know.
Surrender to Krishna. Devotional service.
Yeah.
No, but more specific detail.
Chanting 16
Yes,
rounds.
Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam,
Kevalam.
Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Gati. Prabhupada reminds us, actually, all this about yoga, sacred places, etc., difficult. So chant Hare Krishna, basically. And then 13, 14 describes actually, and the purport I just realized reading before, I didn't mention it yesterday, but Prabhupada's whole purport is focused on the last line of text 14. One should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Yeah. So that's what makes this process bhakti. Without that, the yogi will not be successful. Yeah. Because that is bhakti, to concentrate the mind, to meditate upon me within the heart. That's actual bhakti. And that will be the success of the yogi, if he can do that. So Prabhupada then he mentions in the purple about meditation is generally it's guided towards the Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. Then, of course, Prabhupada highlights that there's no such thing. Was it here? Or perhaps the next verse he mentioned there's no such thing as void. So he emphasizes, yeah. And then there's different other aspects of yoga that is needed to be in place to be successful. And what was one of them in the purple? One of them was to be completely free of what's the binding knot in this material world?
Attachment.
Yeah. Specifically, Pumsasri and Montini.
Sex.
Sex life, yeah. That's it.
Love.
Yeah. So and then he quotes from Yagnavalkya. Yeah, he quotes the 6 aspects of brahmacharya. But then Prabhupada mentions, remember he mentioned about the potency of bhakti as in compared to the path of jnana or yoga. Anyone can say what's the context that he mentions that in? It's good, yeah. Good I ask questions on a Wednesday about Tuesday. I don't ask questions on Tuesday about last Wednesday because it's a long.
But Tuesday, I'm dead because I've done Rajbog and I can't concentrate. Okay.
You can read it.
It's knowledge, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga.
Yeah, he mentions that path, and I've mentioned it a few times, that that path requires absolute renunciation. No connection, well, no correction. It means saffron clad, stark renunciation. But bhakti, the process is so powerful that one can live as a householder, but still there is some regulations that's required there. But still, one can live as a householder and become a brahmachari. What was it said? A brahmachari householder. In other words,
Yeah.
sex life for the propagation of children. And then he says this is all possible because of param drishta navartate. We all know what that means. Param drishta navartate.
Drishva is seeing.
A higher taste, a higher experience that comes from bhakti. And I mentioned that that higher experience is actually the devotion that the soul feels or experiences in relationship to Krishna. So therefore, one can be in the midst of matter, be in the midst of a family, for example, but through the devotion, one can remain on the devotion, on the path of bhakti. All right? And then we got to text 15, didn't we? Yesterday we did, yeah, text 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is where Prabhupada, of course, we know as devotees by now that meditation doesn't mean something void. Yeah, because the verse actually mentions the goal to obtain the kingdom of God by cessation of material existence or the abode of Krishna. So you can quite imagine, because you can quite imagine, I've got the commentary on Bhagavad Gita by Shankaracharya. I haven't read it all because we're not allowed to. No, we are allowed if you want. I have looked at it, but there you can imagine what type of interpretation the Mayavadis are going to give this text 15. For them, it's going to be merged into Brahman to become one. Yeah. But Prabhupada keeps us on the path of personalism, right? We're trying to say, yeah, by mentioning the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna. Yeah. Nirvana paramam. So nirvana is a word which is used generally in a Mayavad context, isn't it? You heard the word nirvana? Nirvana has this, yeah.
Nirvana.
Yeah,
Yes.
it means for him personally, it means nothing. It means void. But nirvana for devotees means nothing, or it means nothing material. Everything is spiritual. Nirvana parama.
Buddhists believe in that, nirvana,
Yeah.
void.
Nirvana, void.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada goes to some extent in the purport explaining about the real achievement for a yogi. So it's the planets in the spiritual kingdom. And he mentions there's planets, they're self-illuminated by the sun, moon, or electricity. So there's electricity. This is this for your. There's a verse actually that describes that abode. Prabhupada is quoting from a verse later on in the Bhagavad Gita, 15, I think. Perhaps I might be wrong. That abode is not illuminated, or doesn't need the illumination of the sun. Yeah. Or it doesn't need electricity. And the critics, the Sanskrit scholars, criticize Prabhupada heavily for using the word electricity. Yeah, because there was no such thing as electricity in as we know it today when Krishna was speaking Bhagavad Gita. But Prabhupada puts it in. He doesn't give any explanation, he just puts it in. Yeah, that's Prabhupada's preaching. That's Prabhupada's making the text of Krishna relevant to us. Anyway, so they have quite a few words to say about Prabhupada's use of the word electricity. Swami Prabhupada uses the word electricity. Where he gets this from, we don't know. All right, let's get to text 16 then. So now let me just see here, text 16. So now next Krishna is going to speak about some of the obstacles for this yoga practice. Yep. So we're going to hear now, yeah, some obstacles to look out for. So this applies to us very much as practicing bhakti, yeah, not just for yogis. All right, someone like to pick it up from text 16?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, you can. Yes. Thank
Hare Krishna. Nasti anastu yogosti nache kantam anasnataha nachati swapana silasya jagrato neva charujnana. Translation Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough, regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. There is no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruit, milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in a mode of goodness. According to the Bhagavad Gita, animal food is for those in a mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, eating food, which is not first offered to Krishna, will suffer sinful reaction because of eating only polluted things. Pujante tu aghama papa ye pachanti atma karanat. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. One who eats sin and eats more than is allotted to him cannot execute perfect yoga. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scripture. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. One should not sleep more than 6 hours. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in a mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Hare Krishna.
Yanks. Any questions or observations on this? There is a place in Bhagavatam, I remember it, I can't give you the actual quote of where it is, but Prabhupada does mention one place 7 hours. Actually, not more than sleep, 6, 7 hours, you know. Sometimes devotees may need more sleep than 6 hours. Need that, but generally we try and keep sleep to a minimum, you know. I used to, before I joined, I used to regularly wake up about 11 o'clock. When I didn't have to go to work. My mother would come into my bedroom and would speak quite some colorful words to get me out of bed. 11 o'clock, something like that. I think, yeah, I hardly saw sunrise before I joined Krishna consciousness, actually. Except actually when I was working, I was working as a carpenter, so sometimes I'd have to wake up early. But it definitely wouldn't be before sun. It definitely wouldn't. It'd be about 7, 8 o'clock. Anyway, you get the idea. Yes. So everyone is eating prashadam?
Hope so.
Hope so. Yeah. For some, we've discussed this before a little bit, I think. It may be challenging if you're working or you're staying with relatives. We've all got probably different yeah, there may be different circumstances that we are in, and we may not be able to do something ideal, like ring the bell, offer the offer the food, offer the bhoga to Krishna on the altar. It may be that we have to offer it within our mind, depends on the situation. But anyway, these are details. The main thing is that we should be in a habit. We shouldn't eat too much as well, nor too little, so because these can be an obstacle. Is it okay to eat too much prashadam?
Prabhupada said no. Prabhupada said, oh, younger people can eat plenty. But after a certain age, we shouldn't be having, even if it's prashadam, we shouldn't be having too much of it.
Yeah. Everyone agree, my brother Kishore?
Yes.
Yeah, eat up to, I mean, he said devotees should eat up to their neck, like, but that was just initially because
Yeah.
they had an attraction for prasadam, and that was what was keeping them there,
Yeah, at least
I
for
think.
the first 6 months, because it's quite a lot for some. Say someone joins a temple, then actually they've given up a tremendous amount of otherwise available sense gratification. And the only thing they have really, as far as the tongue and engagement of the senses, is prashadam. So it said that Prabhupada said, yeah, they should eat till they waddle like a duck, and generally in a festive spirit, sometimes devotees encourage each other to eat as much as possible, and we kind of do that in the beginning, but it is expected that at some point, either by choice or by force, one eats less. Yeah. Why? Because I mean, I experienced that if I eat too much, then my day is ruined, more or less. It ruins my day. I cannot study properly. I cannot learn slokas. It takes me some time to recover, actually. And actually, I've had different experiences with prashadam, one thing I experienced when I was, what I'm like I made a comparison one time where sometimes I do this, I go on very strict regime with myself, and sometimes I made just for the sake of it, and other reasons, health reasons, I go without sugar. I never manage to maintain it, but I do it as often as I can. But I'm just trying to explain the one that I've experienced, that when I'm really trying to be careful of what I eat, and I analyze my body and I analyze the state of my physical self, then I remember eating an enormous amount of prashadam, okay, spiritual, but then I can recognize, looking back, that my body goes into shock. And my body, like I'm in recovery mode, as if I've just been in a boxing match. But unfortunately, devotees, sometimes this becomes normal. For mainly younger devotees, for them, going into shock and going to a comatose consciousness is something which is part of Krishna consciousness. After every Sunday, and there's many stories you probably hear. There's the famous stories from New Vrindavan, isn't it? A devotee tells it much they would eat prashadam. Anyway, Hare Krishna. I have a quote here, but I don't think I need to quote it. Where Prabhupada makes it quite clear that in the name of, actually, I'll quote it. I can't resist it. Okay, this is from the 4th canto, chapter 26. He mentions, this verse is very significant for those desiring to elevate themselves to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. When a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he changes his habits and does not eat undesirable eatables or engage in the eating of meat, the drinking of liquor, illicit sex, or gambling. Sattvika ahara, foodstuffs in the mode of goodness, are described in the sastras as wheat, rice, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, and milk products. Simple food like rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, milk, and sugar constitute a balanced diet. But sometimes it is found that an initiated person, in the name of prasad, eats very luxurious foodstuffs. Due to his past sinful life, he becomes attracted by Cupid and eats good food voraciously. It is clearly visible that when a neophyte in Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. Instead of being elevated to pure Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. The so-called brahmachari becomes agitated by women, and the vanaprastha may again become captivated into having sex with his wife. Or he may begin to search out another wife. Due to some sentiment, he may give up his own wife and come into the association of devotees and a spiritual master. But due to his past sinful life, he cannot stay. Instead of being elevated to Krishna consciousness, he falls down, being attracted by Cupid to take another wife for sex enjoyment. quite a strong purport. So all because of eating too much. Right? So this is something that a brahmachari will become more aware of after a few years, this purport. But anyway, anything else, any other questions or here? Papa's quoting from the 3rd chapter as well. So it's quite strict. If we eat anything that's not been offered to Krishna, it's binding, you know. It's sinful. Yeah. So the offering may be simple, but we should acknowledge Krishna. By Krishna's grace, we have opportunity to eat prasadam. And yeah, any questions here then about sleeping, things like that? 6 hours.
What about sleeping during the day? I've heard that in Ayurvedic, they don't recommend sleeping during the day, but many devotees, I mean, when I was in the temple, take naps during the day.
Yeah, especially you see pujaris will do that. I mean, I do that myself because I'm up early in the morning, 3 o'clock, 3:30, something like that. So I often take a little nap after. But you will see that. But we see generally the general cultural practice that is done. I mean, that's in classic yogic scriptures that describe classic brahmachari life. Like you've got, they should wear tree bark and things like that. They should not cut their nails, and just see that it's said.
Yeah.
It is said that, and if you can avoid it, it's good. But if it's needed, I think devotees call it a snap, you know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's good. So yeah, it's said that a brahmachari, it's actually sinful for a brahmachari to sleep after the sun has risen. Yeah, once the sun has risen.
It's inauspicious to rise after the sun.
Yeah. So we rise for Brahma Muhurta.
If you get up after the sun. Yeah.
Ayurvedically, it's going to help you to be in better health if you rise before sunrise and you don't sleep in the day. But it's not, but we're a bit, we don't, we allow devotees if they're tired to sleep in the day. Because I'm speaking from an ashram perspective, at home, there's not an ashram leader who's watching you.
In hot countries, most of the hot countries I know, people do go to sleep. Even brahmacharis, however, they would have about half an hour. They just disappear and then they come back. So, they've had a nap.
Yeah, siesta. So Bhakti True Swami said, and I try and do that. If you sleep more than an hour during the day, sometimes I do it, not so often. Sometimes I do after the morning program. I'm really tired. Then you should take shower. Yeah, and there's definitely something. Sometimes when I sleep during the day, and I wake up, and when I eventually wake up, I feel like someone stamped all over my head, and immediately I'm in the lower modes. You know,
Yep.
immediately the mode of ignorance is kind of surrounding my whole subtle body, you know?
Yes, I find that I sleep during the day.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the,
I find that sleeping during the day is quite a negative thing for me as well.
Can
Yeah.
I say something?
Please, Mother Guy,
Hello?
she's like a power nap.
Yeah, Mother Jambati says, according to Ayurveda, during the day you can sleep if you're sleeping while sitting up. That's permitted.
Right, there,
Yes, as long
While
as you
sitting,
don't
you
go
can
to
sleep.
bed. Yes.
there, there you go. So I shall try that tomorrow. I don't know how successful.
Yeah, you can sit up. I mean, like listening to a
That's very
class or
good.
something, a little nap,
Yeah.
but go to bed. It
Yeah.
ruins your evening sleep as well then.
Yeah. Main point is that we don't want to be like materialists to waste time. And there's a purport actually today where who is it? Sridhar Swami Ramanuja describes that we shouldn't be like a sloth. Anyone knows what a sloth is?
No.
It's amazing. And I actually was looking at this
Yeah.
in preparation today. So I looked up on YouTube. Check it out after this. Sloth YouTube. It's this animal which literally sleeps all day. It moves.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, Gaia brought telephone next to my mouth. According to Ayurveda, if we sleep lying down, it means kapha comes, mucus, and our intellect, it goes, well, tamaguna and whatever. So the best is sitting. I started practicing sleeping sitting 2 even 3 times for 15, 20 minutes during the day. And it's excellent. It's very refreshing in bright brains. Everything is perfect. Mind is bright, everything. I would deeply recommend everyone.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that, Mother. I haven't heard that before, but I shall perhaps try and put it into practice. Try. I have to make sure I sit a long way away from my bed because the bed has this potency to pull you in. But yeah, so Keshava Kashmiri, a commentator, he mentions one who eats like a glutton or sleeps like a sloth. So a sloth is this animal, it's a jungle animal, tropical animal that moves about 2 miles per hour and just hangs in a tree sleeping. Anyway, so this is what materialists do. Sleep, they can sleep 12 hours, 11 hours, 10 hours, you know. And some will eat themselves to death, isn't it? See, obesity. Of course, some have a disease and it's very difficult to control as far as I understand. But someday I've seen it, it's very sad. Sometimes I've been on planes, I see someone who's obviously very obese. Like I was on a train coming from Scotland, and this young girl, she was so obese, and she was eating for the whole journey. Just eating. I felt sorry. I felt really compassionate for her. I knew she can't stop, and it's killing her. Her eating is going to kill her. Like you never see. It's very rare to see an overweight old age pensioner. You don't see it. Why? Because they don't make it that far. They don't make it that far. So anyway, I think we get the idea. Is these things are not favorable to practice spiritual life. We have to be alert. We have to be in a mode of goodness. We have to make the best use of our times. Eating more will cause us to sleep more. Sleeping more will cause us to be in a subtle, ghostly, subtle realm, difficult to meditate upon Krishna. Yeah. Anything else here? Yeah. So these are obstacles in yoga, obstacles in bhakti. But there's some concession, as we've established in the beginning, as regards to prasadam. But as I quoted this verse from the 4th canto, devotees are expected at some point. Yeah, Prabhupada said he didn't like his devotees to become fatty, as he said. There was one thing, Brahmananda or someone, he didn't appreciate you too much. No, especially as sannyasi, I think he said, shouldn't become. Anyway, Hare Krishna. The same vein as the next verse. we carry on the discussion. So someone like to read 17.
Did you see my Guru Maharaj has a lecture on YouTube called Fat Brahmacharis,
Oh, really?
where he calls out the brahmacharis for being overweight.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah. Actually, see it with all due respect to see it in Mayapur quite often. No, they're quite.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that in the video. He mentioned that, but he's saying it's bad. You know, it's bad health. It's like, and it's unhealthy basically, and it's not good for your spiritual life. Yeah, to be so overeating.
Some devotees,
Yeah.
yes, I know some. There was one devotee, he's since passed away now. He's a Prabhupada disciple, English. He came from very aristocratic background. He used to speak kind of the Queen's English. What's his name? He passed away. But he was, huh? Anyone know anyway, he was in America and there was a car accident. Anyway, the point is that remember he was revealing in one class that sometimes devotees go through a lot, go through a lot of
Is it Kalyapani?
turbulence. Yeah, Kalipani, thank you. Yeah. And they're only sometimes they take shelter of Prashadam in order to get relief from the struggles which they may be facing. And so he mentioned that he was just sometimes it can be that it can be symptomatic of something, some stress going on, because the only relief they can get, or they think, or they eat and eat and eat and eat and eat in Prashadam. And he mentioned that as a personal something that he went through personally. Of course he got through it, and but he was kind enough to share it that sometimes that may be happening with a devotee. So I just saw Mayapur, that's just coming. Hare Krishna, Mayapur, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. This is right. Let's read text 7.
My Guru Maharaj mentioned it. He did that video after COVID, when he started traveling again.
He did it after COVID when he started traveling again, and carry on. I didn't quite get it. Your voice got cut off there.
He noticed how. Sorry, I said I don't know if I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up?
Now it's clear.
Oh no, I just said he put that video. It's not important.
Well, no, that part we got. Go on. You said he put the video, and you said after he started traveling.
It was after COVID. He started traveling, and he noticed how some of the brahmacharis had put on weight.
Yeah.
I guess during COVID, during lockdown, it was,
Yeah, no Harinam, no book distribution, no nothing. Just, some temples had a problem. What to do with all the Mahabhashadam? No guests coming to the temple, so just Mahabhashad. That was a service during COVID, just to eat all the Mahabhashadam. But here it's overeating. Even the name of Prashadam can create obstacles in our spiritual practice. Yeah. So this is what we're learning here. Let's go on to text 17, because it's in the same vein, similar. Someone could read this?
Shall I read?
Yes, go ahead.
Text 17. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yuktva swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Translation. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Purport. Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord Krishna is offered according to the Bhagavad Gita, vegetables, flowers, fruits, grain, milk, etc. In this way, a person in Krishna consciousness becomes automatically trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption or not in the category of goodness. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness, and therefore any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. Avyartha kalatvam. A Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, his sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this respect is Srila Rupa Goswami, who was always engaged in the service of Krishna and who could not sleep more than 2 hours a day. And sometimes not even that. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam, nor even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beads 300,000 names. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest. And thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. Since there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. And because he is regulated in all his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Thanks.
Okay. So even from the yogic perspective, then being regulated in one's habits frees one from material disease, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even food is only the food in mode of goodness to be eaten.
So you're saying it should be only yeah.
Food should be only in the mode of goodness. That means we can't have tinned food.
We can't have tinned food.
Tinned food. That's not in a mode of goodness.
Yeah, there's different, devotees will have their different standards and it can be quite a big discussion, but generally we want to eat fresh food. Prabhupada didn't have, remember he said about frozen food. Prabhupada didn't like frozen vegetables. He said, been frozen for 1,000 years. Of course, within the Abhijari departments, then it's a bit more stricter. But Prabhupada wasn't keen on unfresh food because of this point. Yeah, we want to eat fresh food. Yeah. Because of its sattvic nature. Because you heard that statement, isn't it? Oh, we all know that this day and age is often quoted, you are what you eat. You know? But again, Prabhupada's here, he's mentioning about one should take prasadam, but we just clarified, but even that shouldn't be done extravagantly. Yeah, it should be regulated. It shouldn't be, and we shouldn't be gluttonous. Again, mentioning the same point, you know. And any other points here or questions?
What about this written eating, sleeping, recreation, and work? Now, what kind of recreation?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask that question. I was going to ask devotees that. What is recreation for a devotee? There's a quote here, but I see what you say. Vishwanath Chakravarti, where is it? He mentions specifically what is recreation for a yogi. So what's recreation for a Hare Krishna? Playing snooker?
No, it's Harinam.
Parikram. Yeah. Anybody else?
Harinam.
Harinam.
Chanting Hare Krishna.
Chanting Hare Krishna. Anything else? What is your recreation devotee? I mean, okay, we do one thing, we study and we do service, and then sometimes we want to unwind, isn't it? We want to, dare I say it, space out a bit.
Go on spiritual retreats.
Yeah, go on, spiritual.
Especially to Vedanta, where the prasad is so nice.
Go on a japa
Yeah,
retreat.
play chess.
Yeah.
Play chess. No, I would say that's a no. Anyone else? Playing chess, is that accepted for devotee? I would say
Isn't
no.
that gambling? that
Is it
gambling?
gambling? Balawan played chess. But generally, this word here, of avyata kalatvam, Prabhupada, we shouldn't waste time. So this of avyata kalatvam, this is Prabhupada's taking this from the nectar of devotion, and it's one of the 9 symptoms of bhava. An advanced devotee will spontaneously never waste time. He gives there's 9 symptoms of bhava which cannot be imitated and cannot be hidden. So this is one of them. Another one is a taste for the holy name, an attraction for living in the holy dham, being detached, like that, sort of the article up from. So I would, yeah, I mean, what is Bhakti? I mean, I can't imagine Bhakti Vikash Maharaj saying playing chess is recreation.
Yeah, I don't know. He has a lecture on
Right.
like something about Krishna consciousness, something like that.
Yeah. Now the
Like,
reason I asked
it's
devotees,
acceptable and
yeah, the reason I asked devotees is because each devotee, well, basically, Srila Vishnu Thakur mentions, and interesting because Prabhupada did it every day, that recreation for a yogi is walking. Walking. So that's what Prabhupada did every day. That was his
what about swimming?
Yes, swimming is also there. Swimming, brahmacharis, wrestling, I've heard that sometimes.
Wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, brahmacharis sometimes. I don't know if brahmacharinis wrestle. Yeah, so different devotees will have their specific recreation, but obviously it should be a Krishna conscious recreation. This is the point, like some like going on a retreat or going on a japa retreat or going for a kirtan, going for a 12-hour kirtan, or like which they happen quite often, so in that way you can see it helps it because it says here the fact that the word recreation is even used means that it's part of life for a devotee and part of life for a yogi / devotee. Otherwise it wouldn't be here. He was regulating the habits of eating, sleeping, and work. But so recreation. Anyone else has any idea, can suggest anything what is meant here by recreation from a Krishna conscious perspective? I've mentioned that different devotees may have different specific things that they do to be Krishna conscious, but kind of unwind in a Krishna conscious way. Perhaps this for some of you could be recreation. Reading Bhagavad Gita together.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, that, to go away and just read and chant and hear,
Yeah, this is our, yeah.
Like Kartik and Vrindavan, it's like that. You just go away and your time is spent reading, chanting, hearing.
Yeah.
So
that's to
me, that's
so we look at a materialist. What did they, a gross materialist, what did they do for recreation? That's why I mentioned snooker. Why I mentioned that. But they do things that are not, which are a waste of time, which are not doing them any benefit spiritually. Yeah. Prabhupada was quite bemused by golf, for example, especially because he would observe, because from the Vedic perspective, when someone reaches their retirement age, then it's a time to increase one's japa, increase one's sadhana in a preparation for leaving the world. But then Prabhupada will see these retired gentlemen trying to put a ball in a hole. That's it. That is their, retirement. And he would feel great compassion and great pity upon them. So yeah, recreation. We want to
interject something.
Please, yeah. My Bodas, welcome, Prabhu Ji. Hare Krishna. I
Hare
just saw you
Krishna.
joining. Good to have you with us. Please.
Thank you. I've been listening with great interest.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to add something on this point of recreation.
Yeah.
I think there isn't one rule for everyone.
Yeah.
Different devotees are under different modes and at different stages of the practice of Krishna consciousness. So I remember, because I'm a person who's always been physically very active.
Yeah.
I remember that I would sometimes go and play badminton with devotees.
Mm-hmm.
We would go to the beach. We could swim and some water sports. These were ways that when I was younger, it kind of kept a balance of energy and activity. And then over time, I found that I gradually lost interest in those activities because my body was not craving so much physical activities. And then I took pleasure, for example, in attending festivals. This became the recreation of putting together plays and engaging in some activity that always has some form of connection to Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Especially, I appreciate the first point you made about use depending on one's advancement or depending on one's age as well. So especially in a younger body, there may be quite a lot of, don't know if we word to use passion. But sometimes we may need to think, thank you, Mayapur. I think that's highlighting the point that, okay, we've understood this and we've concluded at recreation. I think we've come to conclusion. I mean, most devotees here are senior devotees. So we've concluded that basically different ways of Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. But there may be a younger devotee who may need, for instance, I think you mentioned badminton, Mayapur.
Yes.
So we should, and I know there's one brahmachari, he used to go, we have a gym next to the temple, the YMCA, yeah. And all the brahmacharis are members. And there's one brahmachari going there and practicing boxing. But we didn't get on his case. We didn't chastise him because he was young. He's quite passionate. So good he goes to the gym and punches a punch bag. But still, we're watching him closely. Not like he's going to get a desire to become the next welterweight champion. But yeah, so you can see how Mayapur was brought. That's why I was also asking the question to you devotees, what you do for recreation. But I think the point he made is very valuable. Then gradually, as you mentioned, you've got you're in different, now you're different taste, different type of recreation. But still, there is a balance and we have to be careful. Having said that we don't, for instance, we take up sports that we don't, because that's happened as well, where devotees may take up different martial arts, for example, different sports, and that leads to associating with non-devotees. That leads to taking on their values. One thing leads to another, in like a needle, out like a plow. So what may seem quite innocent and okay may at some point lead to them going away from the spirit, from Krishna consciousness. So we have to be, it's good to be kind of under guidance of senior or elder devotees to keep us on track. Yeah. Anything else here? We've got 5 minutes left. We could let's have a look at the next verse. Well, he mentions here, Prabhupada mentions about this advyata kalatvam, be conscious not to waste a minute of our life without being engaged in some service to the Lord. How are you doing in that regard, everyone? Are you managed to utilize every minute in Krishna consciousness?
Not me, no.
Silence means we're trying our best. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying our best. Yeah. So this is what we want to aim for. Yeah, we want to use all of our life. It may not be direct. Sometimes our practice may be indirect. We may be at work, things like that. But this is the ideal. And then he gives the example of Rupa Goswami, who would not sleep more than 2 hours a day. And Prabhupada himself showed that by example, isn't it? Although he doesn't cite himself here out of humility, but it wouldn't be out of place if Prabhupada would have written, and I myself also sleep only this amount of hours. He spends time translating Bhagavatam. Yeah, Prabhupada was quite strict on sleeping. I know there's one, it's that devotee who, Shrutakirti, tells a story when he was traveling with Prabhupada. And of course, Prabhupada was traveling the world. And as we know, Prabhupada wasn't affected by what they call jet lag, going from one time zone to another. He would just pick up from the time when in the country that he landed, he would just adjust his watch and pick up exactly without blinking an eyelid, without blinking. He would just go straight into the schedule. So then, of course, but his servants found it quite hard to keep up with him. So, I think one devotee, Shrutakirta described here there was 2 sannyasis, I forget their names, but they were exhausted from getting no sleep after traveling for 24 hours, So they were naturally they were sleeping. And Prabhupada asked, I forget their names, but he said, where is so-and-so? Oh, Prabhupada, they're sleeping. So Prabhupada called for them, and they came to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada started more or less chastise them severely. What are you doing? We're sleeping. Why are you sleeping? Well, Prabhupada, we've just been traveling 24 hours on a plane. But Prabhupada showed that particular time, place, and circumstance. He was showing the strictness, of not wasting time. Anyway, going on a bit. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Perhaps we can just pause here. We've got 1 minute left. All right, quite a lot here.
I would like to
Please.
add a comment and observation. There's one lecture of Srila Prabhupada where he differentiates between a person engaged fully in the activities of Krishna consciousness and someone who has to maintain family and for that has to have a job.
Yeah.
And Krishna explains that, Srila Prabhupada explains that a person who lives this type of life is under material energy, whereas a devotee who's fully engaged in Krishna consciousness activities is working under spiritual energy.
Okay.
Whereas spiritual energy is enlivening and strengthening and seems limitless, material energy will make one feel tired very quickly.
Uh-huh.
So there's a specific lecture where Prabhupada talks about this. And then I made the practical observation of that in my own life, that it limits me by how early I can wake up in the morning. If I wake too early, then I won't be able to make it through the day. And in reverse to that, I observed Rajabhumi Mataji, that she is not only not the best of health, but she has this incredible stamina. to travel sometimes several times a day between her accommodation in Boamud and the temple.
Mm.
And presently, for example, we are looking after Ananta Shakti Prabhu, who is in quite a precarious condition. And
Mm.
Rajabhumi will come to the temple, go home, cook for him, go to his house, and all by public transport. She doesn't have a car, therefore she's using solely public transport. And even I can't keep up with her. Although well, we are same age, but I can't keep up with her. And therefore I can see practically that a person who is totally dedicated to serving the Lord and the devotees has far more energy than a person who's not, like myself.
Yeah,
So I
very.
just wanted to point this out,
Yeah,
to bear that in mind, that it's not possible unless one is trained from childhood. It's not possible for an ordinary person to have the level of stamina that, for example, you were mentioning, or Srila Prabhupada.
yeah,
This is not to be imitated.
yeah. Very good point.
We can aspire for it, but we should not imitate it.
Yeah, and also I might add to that when she comes to the temple, she's doing hardcore service, cooking Mongaladi sweets, cooking Raj Bhoga, dressing the deities as well.
Yes.
Yeah, very good point. So from the spiritual nature, from the spiritual energy, one can have so much bhakti shakti, so much energy.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that out. Nice to hear that glorification as well. Yeah. So she's also taking care of sickly devotee.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's pause there. Let's stop there for today, and please join us next week. And next Tuesday, I'll ask some questions about today. So get ready. We can see how much we can recover.
Thank
We
you.
can recall. Okay, thank you, everyone. Wonderful discussion. Thank you for joining us, Mayapur. Hopefully, you can
Hare
have time to join us next week as well.
Yes.
And Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai.
Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Prabhu ki jai.
Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Patitanam
Ram,
Pavanebhyo
Ram, 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 Hare